Hey everyone, it's Susumi. There we go, I think we're live now. This is Susumi and I am streaming the game Foldit, which is a science game, a puzzle game, where we try to figure out how protein molecules are shaped. And I'm looking today at puzzle number 1431, which is an unsolved DeNovo, quite a large one. And I've got my pieces sort of arranged in space. Let me turn off these side chains. I've got the sheets all in a long row that's sort of twisted a little bit, and the helix is connecting the sheets, but I haven't done any wiggling yet. So I've got my sheets all banded together. The wiggle will hopefully pull them all into line. And what I'm working on now is banding where these cut points are. I'm going to turn off cut points initially, and so I want some rubber bands to pull the cut points together. And just so I can keep track of where I am, I'm going to turn on rainbow color. And we'll start at the beginning of the protein, which is the blue end right here. And when you use rubber bands to pull cut points together, it's a good idea to shorten the rubber bands. The default length is 3.5 angstroms, but that's really longer than a cut point needs to be when it's pulled into place. So I like to shorten them down to about 2 angstroms. And we'll do that for the bands that I've already put in place. Okay, about 2 angstroms for these rubber bands. It took me quite a long time to come up with this arrangement of sheets and helixes. I'll tell you in a moment what my strategy ended up being. Well, having a little trouble getting to, we'll settle for that. Okay, so I'm banding all the cut points. The cut points themselves, when you first start wiggling, are so strong, they pull so hard that they can deform things. That's why I'd rather use rubber bands at the beginning and only turn the cut points on after I've wiggled a little bit. There are a lot of pieces here. I don't even have the whole thing arranged yet. I only got up to about residue number, I don't know, 180 or something. But I decided I need to go ahead and do some wiggling, so I'm just going to freeze the rest of it that I haven't placed yet and let it hang out in space for the time being. For the most part, I used the secondary structure that was suggested on the puzzle, which comes from a secondary structure prediction algorithm called SciPred. I did change them a little bit. Oops, that's not what I want. When I start a puzzle, I look at the SciPred predictions, but I also take the sequence of letters that make up the protein, and I run them through a different secondary structure prediction algorithm, which is called JPred, just so I can get, JPred puts out 3 different predictions, and that way I've got 4 similar but not identical predictions to work from. Let me actually pull that up for a moment. Where is that document? So this is a text document where I just make notes about the protein that I'm working on, and I've laid out, these are the letters of the amino acids that make up the protein, I've got 100 in a row, so these are the numbers 1 to 100, 101 to 200 here, and 201 to the end. And then the first row of secondary structure prediction is the one that came with the puzzle. It's from Cypred. And the next 3 rows are the 3 that came out of JPred. And you can see they're all similar, but they're not identical. And so looking at these predictions, I can see, for example, that these few residues, these few amino acids, they might be helix, but they might just be loops. And it gives me a little leeway in changing them if it makes it easier to make them fit together. Some of these sheets, JPred thought they were longer than what Cypred predicted, and I prefer to make the sheets a little longer. Here's one where Cypred thinks there's a little sheet. JPred doesn't think there's one, but I went ahead and left it in. And I may have even made that one a little bit longer. Here's one where Cypred thinks the sheet is super long. JPred thinks there's a loop in here. And I don't have any other super long sheets to stick that one to, so I put a loop in there so that I'd have some shorter ones that I could more easily stick to other sheets. So let's put that away. Okay, I said I would talk a little about how I came up with this prediction. Let me go back to hydrophobic view. Changed my mind, going back to rainbow, because then you can see the order of the sheets and helixes. So the protein starts with blue. This is, I think, the beginning end of it right here. And my strategy was to look at the sequence of sheets and helixes and just try to come up with a way to get the helixes, to get the sheets to stick together. So I had sheet, helix, sheet as the first thing. Those are quite common, so I arranged them, the 2 sheets next to each other and the helix connecting the ends as my beginning. And then I had a long helix. I kind of stuck it out in space initially. And then I had another short sheet, helix, sheet. So I decided that those 3 together, sheet, helix, sheet, would attach to these 3, and the long helix would connect them. And then once I had, then there's another long helix, this one here, with some short helixes. I think Cypred said this is all one, but I decided to break it into 2. And then several sheets together. So for the sheets that were together, I didn't cut them apart. I used the Rama map to create sheet loops between them and just bend them into a zigzag shape like that, rather than putting cut points there. There's another sheet loop from the Rama map. And then I continued with the short helix and the next sheet, also using the Rama map. So that's why these are not lined up very well. I used the Rama map, and the wiggle is going to have to fix the lineup of the sheets, but at least this way I have fewer cut points, which are always a pain. Okay, and as I said, I only got up to, what is this amino acid here? Okay, I can find the tab key. This is 176, that's as far as I got, and the rest of this is just straight. And I'm just going to freeze all of this and let it hang out in space and figure out what to do with it later. I see we have a few viewers. If you guys have Twitch accounts, you can chat in the Twitch chat, although I'm also watching Foldit chat, so if you just want to chat over there, that's fine. And I believe this time Twitch is saving this broadcast as a video, so that it might take a little while to post it, but after I'm done broadcasting, I think Twitch will save it for 2 weeks, and anyone who's not tuned in now or anyone who missed the beginning will be able to view it. I did actually stream several days ago for the first time. This is just my second Foldit stream. But when I did it for the first time, I didn't have that archiving turned on. My mistake. So that one is gone forever. Okay, what I'm trying to do here is freeze the sheets and helixes, but I'm going to unfreeze the piece of each one that's closest to the loop, just to give it a little flexibility when it's wiggling. So the freezing keeps the sheet or helix in a nice shape. Having trouble unfreezing the ones I want. but I'm leaving the loops free and the segments next to the loops free to adjust. I seem to keep getting part of the loop when I'm trying to do the sheet. Okay, and this one's already loose. I'm pretending that's part of the sheet. Okay, leaving the loops free. And when I put my sheets in a row, I paid a little bit of attention to where the blues and oranges were, not a whole lot of attention. But when I put my helixes in space facing the sheets, I did turn them so that the orange side chains would be hidden. Those are the hydrophobic ones, as much as I could. Couldn't get it 100%. Nope. Well, it says unfrozen, but it didn't unfreeze. There we go. This is a long protein. This thing is 234 amino acids. That's huge by Foldit standards. And since I haven't wiggled it yet, I don't actually know how long it's going to take to wiggle this monstrosity. I have a little bit of sunshine glare in my eyes, so I'm having trouble seeing the colors here. Okay, I want that unfrozen. There we go. Looks to me like I lost track of something. Okay, I'm working backwards. That's what's happening. Working backwards in rainbow order. Oops, got the wrong one there. Almost done. Okay, I've got all the structures frozen. I've got the long unfolded part frozen and sticking out into space where it hopefully won't interfere with all these things I'm pulling together. Okay, behavior. I've got the clashing importance set to 20% right now. For my first wiggle, I'm going to have to go much lower because I'm in the minus hundreds of thousands of points. I do want to disable the cut bands so the cut bands don't pull, only the rubber bands will pull. I seem to have failed to freeze this helix. Did I miss anything else? No, it looks like I got it all. Okay, let's start with a shake. How are we doing? Pretty slow. Well, I got to the second iteration, so that's tolerable. That's probably enough. Okay, and I said I was in the minus hundreds of thousands, so I'm going to go down to about 5% clashing importance, and I want to quick save this before I wiggle it and set recent best, and let's see what happens. Nothing exploding, that's good. If it doesn't explode, that's the first hurdle. I am seeing a few sheet bonds folding, that makes me happy. And the cut points are pulling closer together. Here, this one's already turned yellow. I don't know if you can see that through the purple rubber band. Oh, it's gone back to blue now. How are we doing? Still in the minus hundreds of thousands, and that's probably because of the cut points. Like this one is still really far apart. So that's making my score horrible. Some of these are turning yellow, at least intermittently. That's good news. This one doesn't seem to be pulling together successfully. I don't know if I've got a... I might just have this helix turned in a way that the loop really can't reach. That's possible. I'm going to undo these bands. I'm just going to disable them to give this loop a little more space to pull. That might help a bit. How are we doing? Still at minus 100,000. I think that's mostly because of these cut points that have not pulled very close yet. This seems to be frozen. That's unfortunate. I was having a little trouble clicking where I wanted to earlier. Oh, now we're to minus 93,000. That's progress. I'm winning. Okay, I'm going to bump the clashing importance up, even though my score is really horrible. I think the danger of explosion is past. And I've got lots of sheet bonds. That's great. These guys, not so much. Oh, part of the problem, so these I think are parallel sheets. When they're joined sheet, helix, sheet, helix, sheet in that alternating pattern, the sheets end up being parallel rather than anti-parallel, and parallel bonds are difficult for Foldit to make when the sheets are frozen in their ideal position. The ideal SS position for sheets is based on anti-parallel sheets. It's not quite the right curvature for parallel sheets. So these bonds are going to have trouble forming until I unfreeze these sheets and then re-wiggle, and then they'll probably form more successfully. I'm pretty pleased with the spiral shape of the whole sheet. I like it when they look like that. Okay, I'm at minus 80,000 and just not making much progress. In fact, I'm on the 35th iteration of Wiggle, so that's plenty. That's enough. Okay, let's restore recent best. I got to minus 79,000. That's really not as high as I wanted it to be, but you know, I've got a pretty good looking wall of sheets, so we'll call that a success. Okay, what am I going to do here? I think I'm going to re-enable the cut points, and before I do that, I'm going to delete the bands that are on them because I won't need them anymore once the cut points themselves start to pull. And again, I'm just following the rainbow order so that I don't miss any in this rather crowded screen. Okay, these guys are all joined together. They don't have cut points. Okay, I think I got all the rubber bands off the cut points. I'm going to enable cut bands, so these blue ones that are still far apart will pull, hopefully, together. I'm going to continue working at 20% clashing importance, and these rubber bands are at their default strength, which is 1. There's no units on rubber band strength because it's just a made-up quantity. If I leave them at 1 and I wiggle at 20% and the sheets are unfrozen, the rubber bands will be strong enough to deform the sheets. So I'm actually going to weaken the rubber bands a bit. I have a little GUI script for that. I'll just make them strength 0.5. Okay. And oh, now I've still got this rather large fraction of the protein hanging out in space. Don't know what I want to do with it. I guess I could at least curl up the helixes. Okay, I'm going to curl this helix by using Ideal SS on it. I don't want this end to move. I want that end to move because this end is part of my arrangement. So a recently fixed feature is that I can freeze something over here that holds this end in space, and that ensures that this is the end that will fly through space when I use Ideal SS. Only it says segment is locked. Well, how sad. Thinking. Okay, I'm going to freeze that. I'm just going to highlight the helix. There we go. So the problem is that I had the loops highlighted as well. Okay, let's go ahead and curl all the helixes while I'm at it. Are there more? Got some sheets. Okay, I'm just going to freeze all this stuff. I do eventually have to find a place to put it all. I wonder what would happen if I just left it in space. How far could I get up the rank board? I'm going to leave this one frozen. Don't need that frozen. But I'm going to leave the rest of these sheets and helixes unfrozen so that they can accommodate as the cut bands pull together. Okay, I think I'm ready. So let's try a shake. I'm happy to see some viewers. Welcome. I have 2 viewers. That's great for a second stream. You guys are very important. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I told my family I'd be streaming. They said, oh, do we need to be quiet? I said, no, just be aware that if you talk to me, the internet will hear. My millions of fans will hear you. My husband said, yeah, both of them. So both of you, you are my millions of fans. Okay, that's enough shaking. And I'm going to save this, quick save it. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a proper save since I did a wiggle already. What is this puzzle? 1431. What track am I on? 2. And this was my first wiggle, and it was frozen. Okay. And let me pull up undo. What was the actual score before the shake? Minus 80,000. Okay. I'm just going to put that in my notes document, which you guys don't need to look at anymore. Oh, I didn't even make a note that I had started a new track. I guess I can do that. 1431, track solo 2. And my first frozen wiggle had a minus 80,000 score. Woohoo! Okay, now I've gone past the shake on the undo graph, so this is after the shake, and here's the wiggle. I'm at 20%, yes. And interesting, I'm getting a little bit of exploding here. Why is that? I guess because I started at such a low score. Okay, I'm gonna stop that, undo it, and put the clashing importance down for the beginning of this wiggle, because I don't like the exploding. And my bands are weaker too, so that allowed it to spread out. Even with the low clashing importance, I'm still getting, and I'm now at minus 200,000. Why is this happening? This is not what I expected. Presumably it's because of the cut points pulling, but look how close those are getting. I guess that's because I have it at 5%. I did not think these sheets would pull apart like this. I am not happy. What am I going to do about this? These guys are happy where I didn't use cut points. They're all cool. These guys, not so much. Okay, well, they're getting better. These have bonds. You can see these sheet bonds are kind of zigzaggy. They're not lined up nicely with each other. That is what happens when the sheets are parallel. And parallel sheets means, so this sheet, this is segment number 1. So the segment numbers are going down here. That is, as the numbers increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sheet runs down across the screen. And then the helix comes back up, and the next sheet is also running downward. So when you have two downward running sheets next to each other, that's called parallel. And this one here is also running downward. So parallel sheets have non-parallel bonds, just to keep you on your toes. Okay, I'm at 20 iterations. I'm still at 5%. That's not what I want. I'm going to go back up to 20%. At least I've got positive points now. That's encouraging. These two sheets really don't want to be together, and that must mean that this helix is either not long enough, or it's turned in a way that the loops are not long enough to traverse that distance. So I'm going to have to think what to do about that. And my guess is that this helix has kind of pulled out of shape as well because of the tension on it. So I have yellow cut points. That means I could join them, but I don't have sheets that are willing to stick together, so I'm going to have to do some work there. Okay, this score is pretty stable, and I'm at a jillion iterations. Oh, it's going up a little bit. I'm going to wait a little longer. We do have a scoreboard on this one, probably a little out of date. It says I'm at rank 98. Oh, okay, it thinks I'm still at 0 because this score isn't valid yet because I have cut points open. Okay, fair enough. Okay, that's enough wiggling. Restore best. I got 2990. Let me save that. And that was my second wiggle, and it was unfrozen. Let me just make a note of that. What did I say it was? 2990. Okay. This time I really am going to switch to hydrophobic view, hydrophobic coloring. So I turned this helix so the orange would be in and the blue would be out. I see that this sheet has twisted to try and close this cut point. This one looks pretty healthy. Where are the side chains? This is really crowded. This is a lot to look at. Kind of hurting my head. And I'm curious how this all looks in the Roma map. Those don't look good. This is a glycine, so it's cool. That's a glycine, that's fine. What is this? Alanine. So mostly I want the dots to be in the colored spaces. The ones that are lined up on the axes here between the quadrants, those are all the cut point ones. These guys look okay. These are pretty spread out. So not horrible, not great. on the Roma map, but part of why I'm looking at it is to see what happened with these sheets. So this guy twisted. Where did he go? He's up here. Still pretty close to a good space on the Roma map. What's this guy doing? He's still in the blue. How does the helix look? This one, methionine, is not helixy anymore. It's now sheet shape. So if I were to rotate this so that the oranges were more in and the blues were more out, would that make the loops any better? So I've got a yellow loop here, a yellow cut point, means it's ready to be closed. I've got a yellow cut point up here. What if I made this methionine more helix shaped again? It's kind of pulling that loop further apart. Can I compensate using this? This is not in a colorful area. Would it get better if I did this? Oh, it is. It's getting closer, but no, it's getting further because it turned from yellow to blue. The cut point did. So that's not good. Let me undo that. So this is a pretty tight angle, which corresponds to it being down in this part of the quadrant. Not crazy about that. What could I do about it? I could try moving the whole thing down. And maybe slant that inward a bit. This is getting mighty crowded though. There's this big side chain here, and this is a big side chain, and they're like right on top of each other. That's not good. Maybe scooch over this way a bit. I'm going to shake and wiggle this again and see if this gets any better. I don't want to shake everything. It's going to take too long. I think I can select just the ones that are close by. Yeah, so that's a spherical select. I started from one of these guys and I held down Control and Shift while I dragged the mouse, and I got all the side chains that are close to the one I started from. And I'm just going to shake those. The sunshine glare is kind of driving me nuts. Let me fix that. Pardon me. While I close my curtains. How is that? Okay. Much more comfortable for my eyes. Okay, that's plenty of shaking. I'm at minus 23,000. Could certainly be worse. Let me quick save. Set recent best. And I'm going to lower the clashing importance again, because I don't know how many clashes I created right in this area. Let's see what happens. What I really want is for these sheets to pull together. That was the goal of all of that. I mean, the goal was to make the cut points able to pull together in a better way, but the ultimate goal was to get the sheets to pull together. And, you know, maybe they need a little help. I'm going to try some stronger bands. I can just add them during the wiggle. Try and convince these guys to pull together. Come on, guys. I don't know, do they look closer to you? They look a little closer to me, but could be wishful thinking. I seem to have, I've got a bond here between this histidine side chain and this sheet, which is preventing the bond I want from forming. Okay, I'm going up to 20%. Oh, I'm seeing sheet bonds. There they are. There's 2 of them. 1, 2. Okay, that is progress. How's the score doing? 1600. What did I have before? 2900, I think. So this looks like it might pass that. Really want some more sheet bonds right in here. Oh, well, this is where this guy twisted. So I might not get any bonds right there. It's possible that when I run a remix script or a rebuild script that this sheet will find a way to straighten out. And then I could get the bonds in there that are missing. Okay, now I'm up in the 2900s, so it's not worse. Might still get better, might hit 3000. Come on, 3000. There it is. Okay, good. Better. Better than it was. This serine is sticking right into the middle of the protein. It's completely hidden, and there's nothing. Oh, actually, there is something that could bond to it. Look, there's a tyrosine right here. Those guys could bond together, and then they would be happy being buried. If nothing bonds to this serine, then it will be unhappy being buried. Blue ones only like to be buried if they are bonded to something. These guys might already be bonded. I'm just going to turn on side chain bonds for a moment. No, they're not. There's no hydrogen bond right there. I don't know if you can even see that tyrosine. This screen is so crowded. Okay, let me turn those off because I just don't need more stuff in my visual field. Okay, I have stopped gaining. Enough wiggling. Let me save that. Track, and what did I just do? I fixed one of the short helixes. I don't know which one it was. Okay, fixed helix for better sheet bonds. That seems like a fine name. Just going to put that in my notes. What did I get? 3215. Okay, I'm going to leave those stronger bands, rubber bands on there because I still feel like that area needs some help to pull together. I'm going to hide the side chains and start closing the cut bands. See if I can actually find them all. There's so many. This helix looks kind of squished and unhappy. Might need some help. Okay. There we go. Got them all. Okay, and I'm going to wiggle this again now that the cuts are closed. And the score goes way down. Why does it do that? Okay, now it's going up. There we go, getting some ranks. Not sure if those are real ranks because these scores in the scoreboard are probably really stale. I think I've had this client open for several days, so. Don't know how old these scores are. Hopefully that'll get fixed soon. But it's certainly fun to see the rank ups, even if they're maybe not strictly real. Okay, this looks like it's stabilizing. Well, still gaining a bit. I've got several dots that are outside the red here. There's that, an alanine. Those are pretty unrealistic. It's possible that a remix script will fix those. Still climbing slowly, so I'm going to let that run a little longer. Again, since this is a really big protein, it wiggles kind of slow. On the other hand, this is my new laptop, so it wiggles faster than it would have on my old one. Okay, that's enough wiggle. Okay, 3607. So what was that? Cuts closed is what I did. I am a rabbit saver. I save after every major change. Partly because I sometimes want to go back. I sometimes, regret several actions and want to go back before them. Okay. Also because I tend to do the same actions, like I always save after a first frozen wiggle, I always save after a first unfrozen wiggle, always save after cuts closed, and that allows me to compare tracks. If I have multiple tracks of the same puzzle, I can look at the scores after those save points, since I always save after similar actions, and just, see which track is doing better than the others. Maybe invest more time in that one. Okay, this actually looks pretty good. So I'm guessing there's like a gigantic void in the middle of here. Let's just have a look and see. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of void in there. I didn't want to pack these helixes too close to these sheets because I do have some blue side chains inside there. Like this guy's inside, this guy's inside. So if I could get those to bond to each other, hydrogen bond to each other, then they would be happy and I could try and move these helixes in closer. But I'm going to leave it the way it is for now. This is such a big protein that I feel like I have to kind of make a lot of compromises to get it to come together. So if I were working with a smaller one, I might be more insistent that I not have any buried blue side chains, but I feel like I can't really avoid it on this one. Look at this helix. I'm sure when I initially put that together that the blues were more outside and the oranges were more inside. And these blues are not outside now. They're definitely inside. I don't know what I might do. I might cut that out again and try. Is that the one I was having trouble with before? I think it might be. Might try some other way to get these blues to the outside. Not sure what that would be. Maybe shortening or lengthening these sheets a little bit. Maybe I could slide this sheet. Let me turn off the side chains so you can see it a little better. So this helix, which I'm unhappy with, is joining this sheet to this sheet. They're neighbors. And if I were to slide this sheet and everything attached to it to the left 2 spaces, then the distance to be covered by the helix and its loops would be less. And that might give me more flexibility to turn the helix the way I want. Just an idea. Not going to commit to that right now, but just something to think about. And if I think of anything to close up this void, I might work on that too. Okay, for now, let's turn off these voids. I want to think about the rest of this protein. I'm going to look back at the notes. Where are the notes? Here they are. Okay, I'm going to put these up on the screen. I know on your screen this probably is huge. Sorry about that. Okay, so 175.6-ish is right in here. That's the end of the last sheet that I folded, and this is where it starts hanging out into space. I've got a helix, super long loop, another helix, super long loop. Cypred says this part's a sheet. Jpred says it's a helix, or maybe nothing. So I'm going to have to pick one of these for it to be, and then a sheet at the end. So helix, 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 sheet, or helix, helix, sheet, sheet. So if I were to make this part a helix, this last sheet would have to join one of my existing sheets because there's no other one for it. If I leave it as a sheet, these two could join to each other and they would not have to join to any of my previous sheets in order to be sheets. So I might stick with sheet on that just so I don't have to fit it together with what I've already got. Do I have an edge? I do have a sheet edge right here that something could join to. I have a little short sheet edge on that side that something could join to. So that's a possibility. This sheet edge, let me look at the side chains. Oh, I've got a proline sticking out from the edge right here. That's going to make it hard for anything to join on there. This other sheet edge, there's nothing sticking out badly. I'm going to make this sheet since it's bonded to a sheet. So I could join the two remaining sheets or just one sheet if I decide to make that other one a helix over here. In order to do that, I would have to run the helixes and the super long loops across this space. There's a bunch of blues in here, so I can't like tuck this into that space because it would bury all those blues. That would not be good. There's a bit of an orange pocket right here that I could try and tuck it into if this guy were out of the way. Do I want to try and fit like this helix, for example, into that little pocket? It's pretty crowded. I don't know. What do the other helixes look like? Are they mostly blue or are they mostly orange? This one's got two oranges on this side, the rest blue, so this is going to be kind of out in space, I think. And the sheets, now this sheet has a blue on each side. This one has blues only on one side. So if this were to attach to the existing sheets, I would want it to be on the edge because it's got blues on both sides. If this one were to attach, it could be not on the edge. That is, if I were to attach both of these, I would put this one not on the outer edge because it only has blues on one side. I would put this one on the outer edge because it's got blues on both sides. Maybe I'll try that. How are we doing on time? I think I started a little after 4 my time, and it's now about 5 my time. So close to an hour already on this guy. I was thinking I might switch over and work on the design puzzle a little bit during this stream. Let me just try and move these sheets first, get some idea where they're going, and then I'll switch over and do a little design. It seems to be off kilter. So this part looks like a protein, doesn't it? Which is to say, a great big glob of stuff. Okay, so I said this one would be not on the edge. the one at the very end of the protein. Is that right? No, I said this one would be on the edge because it has blue only on one side. So that makes it not on the edge. Okay, just thinking out loud. So if I have, so again, there's a bunch of blue here. I don't want to have a little crowd of helixes right here. Could I put them on this side? This side has a bunch of blues as well. So I can't put a crowd of helixes against this. I did say I might be able to tuck one in up here. Maybe. So if I put the helixes kind of here, I think there's, how many of them are there? 2, 3, let's see, 1. There's just 2 if I'm going to use this as a sheet. I have 2 little helixes to find space for. And I said 1 could be kind of on the outside because it only had 2 oranges. So maybe if I put this mostly orange one here and then put the other one on the outside. So I'm trying to figure out which side of this bit of sheet do I want these blues to be on. This has blue here. I think I'm going to turn this around. And I have to slide it either up or down. I'm going to continue with my habit of twisting the sheets a little bit so they're not a flat wall. Oh, look at that, I got bonds. Okay, so I've put these 2 blues on the same side as this blue here, and this blue here. So the blues can keep each other company. And that gives me a little orange patch right here. I don't know, maybe I can put one of those helixes against it. So then let's go get the other sheet. Oh, well. Does it matter where I cut? This is an enormous loop. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Okay, let's cut that. Bring this little sheet down. Okay, so I've got to turn it this way. I've got blues on both sides, so my only clue how to line it up is which way the zigzaggies go. That at least looks lined up. Oops. Still getting used to my new trackpad. It's a little hard for me to get a right click out of it on a regular basis. Okay, so this cut point clearly will be able to close. And this is the enormously long loop. And so if I were to, I see this blue, so here's this orange pocket right here. I'm thinking I want to stick this little helix in there, but there's this blue sticking like right into the pocket. It's kind of in the way. I think I'm going to cut this loop, which is joining these 2 sheets, and I'm going to, oh, that is not the effect I expected to have. Okay, then I'm also going to cut this. No, I did not mean pull. Okay. I'm using keyboard shortcuts for a lot of stuff, so I highlighted the two segments and then I didn't go down and click the cut icon, which is down here somewhere. Well, it should be somewhere here. I don't even see it. It's not there because I already placed a cut. But when I wanted to cut, I just hit the letter C rather than clicking down here at the bottom of the screen. So some of the things that I'm doing, you can't see them because I'm using keyboard shortcuts. And if you ever want to switch, I know a lot of people don't use this selection interface that I'm in. I really recommend it when you're working with the Rama map. It makes the selection interface makes the Rama map much more usable. But the selection interface is itself much more usable if you're good at memorizing keyboard shortcuts. If you're kind of new to the game and you don't know what all the tools are yet, it's really hard to use. Okay, so what I've done is I took this pair of sheets and I kind of rotated them out a little bit to get this blue out of this orange pocket. That was my goal here. And I'm going to rotate them a little this way too. Okay, and then I need to adjust these two so they still line up. Okay, there's one. Now this one. So I made there's sort of a corkscrew to the whole wall of sheets. I mentioned that before. And I made this part less corkscrewy. I made it more flat. So these guys are going to end up more flat as well. I don't want them perfectly flat. I still want them to have a little bit of that characteristic corkscrew shape. If you're not used to making your sheets corkscrew, the ones in front should be a little bit clockwise from the ones behind, each one a little further clockwise. That'll give you the characteristic twist for the sheet. And both parallel and anti-parallel sheets have that twist, although not the exact same amount. But I don't know what the difference is. I just know they're not exactly the same. Okay, those guys look like they're lined up okay. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to save moving this helix into this pocket for another sitting. And obviously I've got some work to do on these cut points as well. Okay, so that's a little example of how to work with the DeNovo. I know I started in the middle. I had already arranged quite a lot of it, but you got to see how I was thinking about putting these extra sheets on. Okay, what does this save? Moved sheets to open orange pocket. Okay, I didn't really spell that right, but close enough. And now I'm at minus a jillion points again. Fair enough. Let me make a note. Let's see, I can get this out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this puzzle, and oh, there's my lovely artwork. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. Let me find the other puzzle. I thought it was up here. Here we go. So this is the design puzzle, number 1433. This is a medium-sized design. It's 75 to 90 amino acids. Monomer just means there's only one of it. And I have not started on it yet. Let's see, did I create a track? Yeah, I've got a track here. I do a separate track for each design, so this is my first solo track. And when I work on a design puzzle, I almost always work from a sketch. Often it's a little ugly pencil sketch, and that's the treat that I have here for you today. This is my ugly little pencil sketch of the puzzle, of the protein that I'm going to design. These diagonal lines are helixes. Protein starts here, residue 1, helix goes down. The vertical ones are sheets. Helix goes up, another pair of sheets. So that's my plan. That's what I'm trying to make, and it just helps me remember which way am I turning. Am I turning right? Am I turning left? So that's my little ugly stick figure of my hopefully beautiful protein. Okay, first thing I always do, select the whole thing, change it to sheet. Again, I'm using keyboard shortcuts. And then Ideal SS, and that gives it the sheet twist. Okay, that way when I make sheets in a minute or two, I won't forget to use Ideal SS on them because the whole protein now is ideal sheet shape. And after I made my sketch, I estimated how many sheet segments and how many helix segments I would need and how many loop segments, and I typed those into my little text document. Remember, I have a little text document for each puzzle. Where's the one for this? Here we go. So I just typed them in here. This many helix, a couple of loops, this many sheets, a couple more loops, this many sheets. And I'm going to use that string in just a moment. Mike Cassidy, hey, nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, I'm going to use a wonderful recipe written by Loci Oiling called SS Edit. SS for secondary structure. Those are the sheets and helixes. So it's showing me, see all these E's here, E for sheet. I know, sheet starts with S, but in protein land, for some reason, sheets are abbreviated E. Helixes are H. So the recipe is showing me right now, all I have is E. Everything is E. Oh, you know what I need to do? Let me exit the recipe for a moment. I actually need to change everything back to loop for this to work. There we go, now everything is loop. Okay, now I'm gonna run the SS Edit recipe. Now it's telling me everything is loop. Loci has used the letter L for loop, which is what Foldit uses. In my string, I have dashes. This is going to be okay. First thing I'm going to do, click in here, and it says Control X will cut. So I have cut everything out of this little edit box. I'm going to go back over to my notes, and I'm just going to highlight this whole string. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. I'm going to click in here and I'm going to paste, and Control V in Windows is paste. If you were running on a Mac or on Unix, you would have to figure out what your copy and paste shortcuts are. Okay, so I've put the helix and sheet designations into this edit box. I have little dashes. The recipe's going to ignore the dashes. It's just going to leave 2 unchanged. When it gets to that, it's going to change the first residue to H, second one to H, right, for helix. When it gets over here, it's going to skip 2 residues where I have dashes. And then it's going to start changing to sheet. And since I made everything loop to start with, when it skips 2, it's going to leave it loop, which is what I want. So I'm going to hit change. And it just painted my string of secondary structure onto the protein. Here's where it skipped 2 and left them as loop. Okay. I'm going to go over to the beginning of the protein here, and I'm going to switch to hydrophobic coloring. That's what I work in almost all the time. Rainbow's great for when you need to see where's the first piece and the next piece and the next piece. But mostly I work in hydrophobic. Okay, I'm going to highlight the first helix and curl it up. Keyboard shortcut for Ideal SS. I don't have to Ideal SS the sheets because I already did that at the beginning. But I do need to bend these loops, and I'm going to use Blueprint for that. Blueprint has ideal loops in it. They're not the only loops found in nature, but they're very common. That's why the scientists want us to use them for our designs. Okay, so this red is the helix. These two are the loop. I'm going to change, oh, you know what I'm going to do? While this helix is selected, I'm going to change it all to leucine. When we get the protein, it's all isoleucine. Isoleucine is great for sheets, not great for helixes. So I changed my helixes to leucine. And then I'm going to change the loop as well. I can select these segments by clicking them in the selection interface. You can see they change color. I can also select them in the blueprint window. You can select one amino acid at a time in the blueprint window. Okay, this is going to be a helix to sheet loop. Let me go look at those. Helix to sheet. I'm going to use the first one in the list. This red is the end of the helix. The loop is going to be green and blue, and the beginning of the sheet is the blue. So for green and blue, for the green one, I want glycine. That didn't do what I thought it would. Let me try that again. Okay, mutated to glycine. And the second one I'm going to leave as isoleucine. I'm going to grab this green-blue loop, drop it onto the blueprint, and it bends it into the ideal loop shape. Looks to me like this helix is going to be kind of short for covering up these sheets. Might end up making it longer. Okay, this was an estimate, so it's good to start with. Here's my first loop between sheets. It's this one right here. You can see when I highlight one down here, it highlights up there. For a sheet-to-sheet loop, let me click on those. I'm going to use the first one, which is green-green. And I'm going to change them to N and G. N for asparagine, G for glycine. I've just memorized for a green-green loop, N and G are almost the most common. I think maybe D and G are the most common, but I always use N and G. I like to be consistent. I like to be lazy. Don't want to have to think it up every time. Okay. So I'm curious whether this looks like my stick figure sketch or not. Let me pull that up. Where is that? Here we go. Okay, sketch says if I look at this pair of sheets with their join at the top, the second one should be on the right and the helix should be slanted this way. Let's see, does that match? Sorry, I can't keep them up there at the same time very well. Okay, helix is diagonal and it's over to the left, and then the first pair of sheets, first one's on the inside, second one's on the outside. So it does look like my sketch, so that's good. It's going okay. Okay. I've got a sheet helix loop. I need to first curl the helix. Always want to curl the helix before you do the blueprint. And while I've got it highlighted, I'm going to change it to leucine. Again, keyboard shortcuts. I could have clicked somewhere down here. Where would I click for that? M for mutate down here would bring up the list of things I could change it to, and I could click on leucine, but I just hit the M key and the L key and it all changes. Okay, for the loop, it's going to be a sheet to helix loop. Let's look at those. I almost always use this bottom one, green, blue, blue. Like really almost always. I have to have some particular reason for ever using one of the others. So I'm going to make the first one glycine because it's going to be green, and then two blue ones. Glycine, and I have just memorized this loop works well with GPD. One of the other loops I use all the time also works well with GPD, so I only have to remember one thing for the both of them. And I'm going to drag the green, blue, blue loop onto the blueprint. Mike tells us that the copy and paste commands for the Mac are Command A, etc. Command A is probably select all instead of Control A. Okay, so this helix has come parallel to the other one. That's good. This one looks like it's long enough for the sheets. That's also good. And then we're going to do a helix to sheet loop. Right here, helix to sheet. I've allowed 2 for that. I must have been planning to use this green-blue. I almost always use the top 2. If I'm using 2, I do green-blue. If I'm using 3, I do green-blue-red. I happen to know from reading the ideal design papers, green-blue is particularly good for anti-parallel sheets. Green-blue-red is particularly good for parallel sheets, but I don't always follow that convention. I use whichever one I feel like, basically. Okay, I left 2, so I'm going to use green-blue here. Okay, get this centered. Okay, and I need to change the amino acids. If I don't change the amino acids before I wiggle, then Foldit's going to be faced with isoleucines in a loop that has a green residue in it, and isoleucine does not like to be green. Let's pull up the Rama map and look at that for a moment. Oh, this Rama map is terrible. The Rama map that we had on the other puzzle, the color patches had white in between them. That's how it's supposed to look. This one has way too much color on it, so it's not informative, so never mind. But if we were looking at the good Rama map and we looked at isoleucine, we would see that it doesn't have any green space. So I'm going to change that to glycine. I'm going to leave this one as isoleucine. The reason I leave it, actually, I might change it. This, when I wiggle these together, let me put some rubber bands in here. This is going to go to there. Trying to make sure I get them lined up right. I have 2 slightly different length sheets here. So they're going to line up at the bottom. At the top here, one of them's a little shorter. So this isoleucine, you can see how it sticks out to the side. It's going to tend to be something orange because it's going to be hidden in the protein, but the way things are going now, when I wiggle and pull this amino acid close to that one, this is going to bump into this here. Not good. So I need to make this smaller. My first choice would be alanine, which is the smallest one that has a side chain. I think we're going to try that. I might end up having to make this a glycine just so that there's no side chain to crash into this piece of sheet, but we'll wait and see. We'll try it with alanine. How is this doing? So this one also, this is a green-blue loop that I made earlier. I left the inward-facing one as isoleucine. That is going to crash into this segment right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make it smaller to start with. I'm going to make it an alanine. Okay. My final loop is going to be sheet. I have a big space here, but I seem to remember from my sketch. Let me see if I can bring up the sketch. Here we go. So this was first helix, first 2 sheets, second helix, third sheet's on the outside, fourth sheet is going to be in between. So it's good to have a big space there because there's going to be the fourth sheet going in between there. Okay, good to know. Here's my sheet loop. Let me pull those up. I'm going to use green again. Use that most of the time. And where did that go? Let me highlight this. Okay, so this is the final loop that I just put in. This is the final sheet. It did go in between, although not quite exactly where I want it to be. Did I band? Yeah, I banded the wrong sheets together. Okay. Yay me. Let's get rid of those. Okay. I still need to change the amino acids on this green loop. I usually use NG for the green. You could use DG if you want. And I'm going to hide the side chains and this time band the correct sheets together. I mentioned earlier that I have sheets of slightly different lengths. This final sheet is long enough to match 1-to-1 with these longer ones. These are 8 residues long. This one is 7. I made it 7 so that this loop would turn inwards. If I had made this one, let's see, is that accurate? Also because the loop I was using here, the first side chain in the sheet faces away from the helix. These side chains, these end side chains are facing towards the helixes. So those couldn't line up. So since this is facing away, I'm lining it up with these residues, these amino acids. So this one ended up being 1 segment shorter. And then I stopped at 7 so that this loop would turn inward. If I had gone on 1 more segment of sheet and then put a loop, it would have turned outward, which is fine. That would be an interesting design, but it's not the design I'm making today. I have done that one a few times. Okay, what am I trying to do? Turn off the side chains so I can make the bands. Okay, I'm gonna, whoops, wrong. Going to band all the sheets together. When I have a sheet loop like this, that's only 2, I know that's going to hold these guys together, so I don't put bands in the last 2 segments. I just band all the others. Same thing here. These first 2 pairs, I don't need to band them. They're held together by the loop. If I leave them unbanded, they have a little more flexibility. Okay, did I get everything banded correctly? I'm just going to move this through space a little bit. Okay, I see that I don't have any bands to space. That's good. That's one of my common errors, to leave a band sticking to space instead of to the adjacent sheet. Okay, I think I might be ready to shake and wiggle. So I'm just going to glance at my loops, make sure all of them have a glycine where they're green. They do. Make sure my helixes are L for leucine. My sheets are I for isoleucine. Okay, that all looks good. Behavior. I generally start at 20%. We're close to it. Close enough. And we're going to shake. Don't need that window. Okay, good enough. Now I could use the Rama map to try to get the sheets closer together before wiggling them, or to try to get this helix to not crash against those sheets. In fact, I think I am going to do that. I'm going to use the Rama map a little bit. Got to make it bigger because I got to be able to grab the dots. Okay, let me try. What I want to do is this helix right here, I want to move it counterclockwise. I'm going to think of this loop up here as the hinge. I want to move this helix kind of counterclockwise so these sheets are closer together at the bottom and they move away from that helix which they're currently crashing into. So I'm going to try moving this guy. I don't know which way to move it. Oh, the other end is moving. That's fine. The goal is still the same. Okay, none of these movements are making the thing I want happen. Well, that maybe sort of did. So this is further from that. That's good. What did I do? I moved it down. Is more down better? More down's a little better. it this way better. Okay, at least I have less clashing. We'll let the rubber bands pull things together. And in order for these not to fly apart, I'm going to throw a band in. I kind of want these sheets to move up, so I'm going to band from this helix down to, I guess, this space between side chains. Okay. And just like I did on the DeNovo, I'm going to freeze my structures to keep them in a nice shape. I'm going to unfreeze the residue closest to each loop to give it flexibility. Okay, the freezing will protect the sheets and helixes and keep them in ideal shape. The unfreezing next to the loops gives flexibility. And we shook, but then I moved things around with the Rama map, so I'm going to shake again. Okay, good enough. I'm at a minus 100 and some thousand, so that's a terrible score, so I want to lower the clashing importance a lot. I'm going to go to 5%. Do a quick save here, and set recent best, and wiggle. See if these rubber bands can get these sheets lined up. What I want to see is hydrogen bonds right in here. There's a few. There's several. Okay, that's good. You can see by using the blueprint loops, the sheet sort of automatically has this fan shape, this twist to it. The sheet of 4 strands has a twist to it. That's how most natural sheets look. I didn't have to work hard to make that happen. It just came from the blueprint. Okay, I'm going to bump the clashing importance up to 20% now that there's no danger of the protein exploding. What I notice is, so I was worried that this helix was going to be too short. It's kind of sticking out into space here at the end, so being longer would not make it better. These sheets, however, don't have any helix close to them. So they're not going to look good in terms of being part of the core. That's unfortunate. If you look at the sheet end on, you can see both of the helixes are kind of scooted over to the right. So I'm going to add a rubber band to pull this helix closer to that sheet. Okay, that's enough wiggling. Save that. This is not 1431, puzzle 1433. Track 1, first wiggle frozen. Okay, make a note of that. You guys don't need to look at that anymore. 52-55 is my score. Okay, I'm going to unfreeze everything. I'm going to turn on side chains so I can see where could this helix fit nicely against that sheet. There's a side chain right here. Let me make this bigger. Side chain right here that could fit right in this space between side chains. Because this side chain is on the left, there's a space on the right. That would be a perfect spot for this. So I'm going to put a band to pull those closer together. And if it doesn't fit in this space, it'll fit in the space next to it. Okay. So by pulling this sheet closer to the helix, that's going to actually undo some of the beautiful fan shape that Blueprint gave us. But I have to have enough residues in the core to satisfy the core filter, so you do what you got to do. Okay, and I've got already a band pulling, excuse me. I've got a band, excuse me. Got a band pulling this side chain of the helix into this space, hopefully. It would sort of be nice if this helix were not just hanging out into space there. I'm actually going to try and pull it. I'm going to put a band from this one to that space in that sheet to try and pull the helix over to the left a little bit. Okay, we'll see how that goes. I'm still working at 20% clashing importance. If I leave these bands at full strength, they are strong enough to deform the sheets now that they're unfrozen. So I'm going to weaken the bands to 0.5 strength. Okay. Let's shake and wiggle. I think, yeah, this puzzle sadly has no scoreboard today. Foldit's having a little trouble with their scoreboards recently, and this one just doesn't have one. On the DeNovo, I had a scoreboard, but as I said, it was probably out of date. Normally they update, not quite in real time, like every few minutes they update and you get to see what scores other people really have and what your rank is. But I don't get to see that today. And it's a weekend, so it's not going to get fixed today, but you know, maybe Monday. Okay, enough shaking. And I'm going to turn off the side chains to make it wiggle faster. And wiggle. I don't know. Do you think this one is getting any closer to that one? Do you think this sheet's getting closer to that helix? That was my goal. Not moving a lot. Maybe moving a little bit. I might. So for this loop, I left 2 residues, and I used the green-blue loop. And that holds the end of this helix to a spot kind of off the end of this sheet. If I were to substitute, instead of having this 2 residue loop, if I were to put a 3 residue loop in there, the green, blue, red, then this end of this helix could actually be offset. It could scoot to the left, away from the end of that sheet, which would bring the whole helix a little over to the left, which would help to cover these sheets. And they need some help. If you look at them, they're completely uncovered. This one's completely uncovered. That one's mostly uncovered. So I bet I have a terrible core filter score. Well, minus 75 points. So on this puzzle, that means I have 3 too few side chains in the core. I thought it would be worse. But I think maybe I am going to put the 3 residue loop in there. Let me think about what the downside might be. So I made this helix 18 residues long. Oh, I seem to have been shaking for 300 iterations. Maybe that's enough. Let me save this. What was that? That was my second wiggle, and it was unfrozen. Let me just make a note of that. 7152 is the score. No idea what the rank is. I could look on the website. That's how you find out your rank, obviously. When the scores are down, you look on the puzzle page on the website. So I made this helix 18 residues long, and I used the green, blue, blue, and the green, blue loops. When you use green, blue, blue, and green, blue, and you cover 7 residues of sheet, the common lengths for the helix are 17 or 18. If I switch from the green, blue loop down here to the green, blue, red, the common length of the helix is going to shorten. You remember I said this green, blue loop puts the end of the helix kind of below. It's kind of off the end of this sheet. If I use the green, blue, red, the loop is going to be more sideways and the helix is going to need to be shorter. You can have the long helix, 17 or 18, with the green, blue, red loop, but it's more common for it to be 15 or 14. So I kind of need to think about that. I think this thing is a perfect 75 right now. It is, it's 75 residues. If I add one to the loop and take 3 off the helix, I'm going to be at 73 residues, which is less than the puzzle is aiming for. The puzzle's aiming for 75 to 90. So almost everyone's going to have 75 or more. If I have 2 less, I'll have less points. Not what I want. If this is one that I'm just doing for science and not to win the game, then having less points would be okay. And I do a lot of designs that are not to win the game, that are just for science. So this might be one of those. I could take the extra 2 residues and put them on the end of this helix. This residue is kind of pointing out into space. If I were to add 2 more, they'd be even with this one and this one. They'd be on the outside of the helix, so they'd be blue. They would not be contributing to the core. On the other hand, I would hope to get more of these in the core. Let me show the core filter. So a core filter says there's only one hidden side chain here, and all the rest of these are uncovered. It says there's only one hidden one here. All the rest of these are uncovered. I'm hoping to use this helix to hide some of these, so I would hope to gain at least 1 here and 2 there in the core, and not lose any over here. So given that I think I'll have enough in the core after I shift the helix, I think it's okay to have 2 blue ones out here. Okay, just doing a little mental math out loud. So I'm going to do some surgery here. Now, the obvious approach would be to cut the loop and then add another residue. I'm not going to do that because if I don't know how to put this. If I cut the helix and I take residues out of the helix, because remember I'm taking 3 out of the helix, putting 1 in the loop. So my net change is going to be to remove some residues here. If I remove them in the middle of the helix, I can use ideal SS to fix the changed helix into an ideal shape again more easily than I could use the blueprint tool to make an ideal loop here. So that's actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a cut in the middle of the helix. Okay, and I wanted to remove a total of 2. Remember, my net change is going to be to remove 2 here. So I'm going to highlight 2, hit X for delete. Okay, and I'm going to make this 2 residue loop into a 3 residue loop. So I'm going to change this to loop. Okay, and I need to find this in the blueprint. Okay, I see by the highlight that this loop is this loop. So I need to take the current blueprint off. And I'm going from green blue to green blue red. So this is going to be the glycine. I'm going to use that GPD sequence that I so often use for 3 residue loops. This is a helix to sheet loop. Where are my building blocks? Helix to sheet. And green, blue, red is the one that I'm going to use now. Oops, where is it? Over here. The green goes on the glycine. Okay. So by putting the new blueprint on, I actually got the helix fairly close together. Let me think, am I going to adjust it before I wiggle? I believe I am. Also, I said I was going to have 2 extras to add on over here. I took 2 out here. Now I'm at 73. I have 2 to play with, so I'm going to add them on over here. I don't know what the keyboard shortcut is. I for insert. I'm going to use the plus sign. How many? 2. And then I DLSS the new ones and change them to leucine. They come in as alanine. I think that's a remnant from days gone by. Okay, this is ugly. I want it to be prettier. Those are technical terms. Okay, I kind of want this part of the helix to be up a little higher and this one to be down a little lower without messing up my sheets. How can I do that? Let's get this out of the way. Let's get that out of the way. I don't really know how to do it. Remember, soon, after I wiggle, I'll be able to use IdealSS to make this repair beautiful. But first I have to wiggle, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to let Foldit figure it out. I'm going to leave the cut bands enabled, and I'm going to shake and wiggle. We'll see what Foldit can do. How are we doing on time? 5:45, my goodness. So I've been doing probably, I don't know, half an hour of design now. So I think I'm going to try and get this into a good shape and stop just before mutating, which would be my next major thing to do once I get this into a good stable shape. Okay, shake is done. Let me quick save this. And I'm at minus 39,000, which, you know, given that I have a cut point in it, that's not terrible. But let's go down to a low clashing importance. 5% is my usual low. Let's just see what Foldit does. Foldit's going to try and make the helix into a good helix shape, even though there's a cut point in it. It's going to try and get these amino acids into a pretty good relationship. You can, well, okay, I said that, but you can see that it's a terrible helix shape. I don't know, maybe Foldit's not trying. I was sure it would. I was so sure. Oh well. Okay, let's go back up to 20%. The reason I work at 20% in the early part of the puzzle is just because it allows things to be crowded while other aspects of the protein are getting worked out. Wow, this looks horrible. I don't like it. Gonna stop that. Gonna undo it. What can we do? How about if we band the helix so that Foldit will try to make it pretty? Okay, that's my plan. So when you're banding a helix, each segment of the helix should rubber band to the segments that are 3 away and 4 away. So this is 1, 2, 3 away and 4 away. This one bands to the one 3 away, which is here. This one bands to the one 4 away. 3 away, 4 away, and you just can go up the helix like that. This would be the perfect task for a little utility script. Every time I band a helix by hand, I think, gee, I should write a script to do this, and then, but I don't because I'm in the middle of something, and then I just don't. So feel free, anybody. Just band 3 away and 4 away. No, don't pull. That was a mistake. Having a little trouble finding the right spot. There we go. That's 3 away, that's 4 away, and done. And these guys could all be weaker, 0.5. These ones down at the bottom, I'm going to make them strong. No, I'm not going to delete them. That was not the plan. Okay, change band strength, set default. Set them back to 1. Because they're going to do what I thought Foldit would do, which is try to make the helix into a good helix shape. I've got work to do. Gosh, these are hard to see when they're not lined up. I hope you guys can hear me. I know I mutter sometimes when I'm thinking. If I'm ever doing that, say something in chat. I'll try and speak up. Speaking of chat, I should check it now and then. You guys are really quiet. I hope that means you're very entertained. Might mean that you've gone to get a soda for the last hour and a half. Okay, I think I'm ready. So I already shook before I added the bands, so I'm ready to wiggle. Let's see how this does. In theory now with the bands, this will come into more of a helixy shape. Well, it looks better now. Let's hope it doesn't get worse. It kind of got worse as the wiggle went by before. Okay, let's go up to 20%. Well, it's less ugly than before, so I'm going to call that a win. I didn't have to change the length on these bands. The default length, 3.5, is pretty good for the coils of a helix. It's maybe a little bit shorter than perfect, but it's pretty good. So this helix is somewhat helix shape. The whole point of this changing the loop exercise was to get this helix to move more to the left and cover up some of this sheet. I'm not seeing that happening. And look, now the helix is getting ugly again. I'm going to stop this before it gets worse. How high did I get on score? Yeah, so let me make this stronger for the next wiggle. Reset default. So it was a great idea, but it didn't work. Yeah. Sometimes that happens. Okay, I'm going to join that. Now, I'm going to use IdealSS to fix this helix. That's going to cause other pieces to fly out of adjustment, and we'll just have to compensate somehow. Okay, so that made these fly away. Okay, not a surprise really. Okay, so what I want to do to fix, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save. When in doubt, save. So this was longer loop, shorter helix. Minus 400,000 points. Woohoo. Are we done? No, we're still saving. Foldit's trying to talk to the server. There we go, done. Okay, in order to fix these sheets flying away, I want them to move to the left. I'm going to use the Rama map. In the Rama map, sliding something, like sliding these to the left, very hard to do. I can't do it. But rotating things, that works great in the Rama map. So I'm going to think of this helix as my hinge. I want these sheets to move around the hinge counterclockwise until they come close to those guys again. So I'm going for counterclockwise. And if this helix, let's see, thinking for a moment. So I made the helix 15 residues. And 15, as it turns out, if you're going around and around like this from the front to the back of the helix, 15 went around too far, a little bit too far, and these sheets are over here when I wanted them over here. If I had used 14, which is the other common helix length for how much sheet I'm covering, if I had used 14, the helix would have gone around not far enough, and these sheets would have been right on top of those sheets. So my choices are too far or not far enough. If I want it to go from being curled too far, again, we're going around like this, we went too far. If we had curled the helix less tightly, if this circle were a little bigger, if we didn't go around quite as far each time, then it wouldn't have been too far. So what I want to do is make this helix less tightly curled, which I know how to do using the Rama map. I'm going to open the blueprint too because it makes it easier for me to select each segment in turn on this helix. Let me find out where I am here. I'm starting right here. To make this helix less tightly curled, I'm going to grab each dot in the helix and I'm going to pull it down just a little bit. And in my case, just a little bit means about 1 dot width. Maybe a tiny bit more because I'm kind of trying to move pretty far. So like a dot width and a half from where it started. I'm going to select the next one, do the same thing. From wherever it is already in the Rama map, I'm going to pull it down about a dot and a half width. And that results in the helix being curled less tightly, which means these guys are getting closer to their neighbors, which is my goal. So just pulling each dot in turn down by about 1.5 dot widths from wherever it is. I don't have to move it to a particular spot on the map. I just have to pull it down a little bit from wherever it is. And the result of the helix being less tightly curled is that the sheets don't go so far away from their neighbors. If I wanted to curl the helix tighter, like if I had only used 14 residues and if it were not curled far enough and I wanted to curl it tighter, I would grab each dot and move it up a little bit. Up for tighter, down for looser. So I'm almost out of helix here, and I haven't, oh well, they're getting pretty close. Got 2 left, 2 residues left. Actually, they're getting quite close. This is good. Okay, so by curling the helix less tightly, I have brought the sheets from over here back close to their neighbors. The uppy downiness of them needs some work, but I've already got rubber bands in place. We're going to let the rubber bands do the work. This is a big clash. Don't like that. Just going to try and fix that. And again, it's a rotating idea. So let me undo that. I want to use this as a hinge up here because this is where these sheets connect to the rest of the protein. Use that as a hinge. I want these pieces of sheet to rotate a little bit counterclockwise around this hinge. I want them to rotate a little bit that way. I don't actually know for a loop which way to move the dot. I just start moving it. Down seems to be good, but it's also bringing these guys closer to the camera, which I don't really want. Ooh, right is better than down. Okay, I'm going to undo both of those and try just moving the dot to the right. There we go. Oh, well, now it's crashing into the other helix. Maybe I will move it down after all. Okay. So I've avoided some of the clashing anyway. I'm going to move it a little more down. And a little left. Okay. So now I don't have any really huge clashes, and I'm ready to wiggle these guys together. So I have a nicely formed helix. Oh, I seem to have turned the whole thing upside down somehow from what it was before. I'm just going to turn it back. This was where we did the surgery on the helix. Took 2 residues out of it, and the bands helped to hold it in place until I was ready to close the cut. Once I closed the cut, I had to use the Rama map to move the sheets back close together. Okay, I'm going to do some shaking and wiggling. And once I've got this wiggled into a good shape, I think I'm going to bring the stream to a close. Does anyone have any questions? You could type them in the, oh, Mike tells me my sound is okay. That's good to hear. Thank you. You could type the questions in the Twitch chat, or you could put them in Vet chat. I'm currently watching that. Okay, that's enough shaking. And I'm in positive territory with the score. That's good. Okay, since this is in a good shape now, I'm going to reduce the strength on those bands again to 0.5, except for this one. This is the one that's supposed to pull this helix closer to that sheet, which was my long-standing goal. And since this is now strong enough to deform things, it's good that the helix is all banded. That will help keep this helix from being pulled out of shape by this strong band. Okay, let's do a quick save and wiggle. And I'm going to look at the core filter. Still got minus 50, oh, minus 25. That means I'm successfully hiding more side chains, and I got the bonus. Oh, lost it. It'll come and go. Let's do a show on the core filter. So I gained an orange here. That's one for the core filter. I have not gained one over here. I got one to switch from blue to green, which is better, but it's still not part of the core. And here I got one to go from blue to green. So somehow I gained 3, but not necessarily the 3 I planned to gain. Life's like that. Okay. What was my score the last time I saved? Oh, minus 400,000. But before that, I had 7,100. And now I have 6,400, which is worse. Why is it worse? The core is better. The ideal loops are okay. So I actually have the full filter bonus of 700 points on this puzzle. Sometimes it's more than that. On this one, the max is 700. And yet I have 700 less points for the protein than I had before. So somehow I have made it not filter worse, I have made it objectively worse. Okay. Well, it's good to have an accomplishment. So yeah, if I don't manage to bring that score up, this is going to be a for science only design. So I don't know. Ooh, there was a bird right outside my window. Don't know if you heard that chirping. Anyway, I don't know why it's worse. Hopefully scripts will make it better. I do notice I have sheet bonds here. I don't have any sheet bonds right here. That could be affecting the score. Don't know what else. This helix is just a little bit misshapen because of this band pulling on it. You might want to add helix bands to that to hold it in a better shape while scripts run. I use scripts that leave my bands in place, by the way, just so the script doesn't deform things too much. Okay, I'm going to bring the stream to a close. We went from a straight line to a respectably folded protein on the design puzzle. Made a bunch of progress on the DeNovo puzzle. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. I've certainly enjoyed having you to talk to. I'm hoping on future streams that people will chat more, which is also fun. But, you know, the most important thing is tune in. Thanks very much for coming by, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Oh, there's my artwork. Looks just like that, doesn't it? Trying to find where I turn the stream off. There it is. Bye-bye.